Max is a new financial tool that we created to help investors earn more on their cash in the bank. I came up with the idea for Max during the financial crisis. I had moved abroad and sold my apartment, knowing that I would need to buy a new apartment when I moved back to the United States, and that excess cash was just sitting in my bank account. Then the financial crisis hit, and all of a sudden many of the banks started to teeter, and I realized that any cash that I had that was above the FDIC limit was exposed. And so I opened up a series of online bank accounts. I did that in the course of one afternoon to help spread that cash across multiple banks to keep it safe. And then I found over time that as interest rates were changing, one bank would cut its rate and another bank would cut its rate, and I started manually moving money from one bank to another to effectively chase what was the highest interest rate available at the time. And after many years of doing this manually, it occurred to me that if I could automate this, then other people who had the same problem could also benefit from the same strategy. The next thing that happened was we had to figure out how to fully automate this system, because I knew from my own experience that managing these accounts manually was very cumbersome and tedious. But if we could create a solution that was fully automated so that a customer could set it up once and never have to think about it again, then we would have something that would be useful to other people. It then at that point became an engineering challenge of how can we create a network and a platform that seamlessly integrates all of these accounts into one very easy to use system. What we've done with Max is help people engage with online banks in a streamlined manner. Online bank account setup is very simple. It takes 10 or 15 minutes and then you're up and running. And the neat thing about online banks is because they don't have any branches, they have a much lower cost structure, and so they're able to pass on those savings to depositors in the form of much higher interest rates. Online banks are not a new phenomenon. They've been around for more than a decade, but in the United States, more online banks opened up after the financial crisis, after many very well-known reputable financial institutions were granted banking charters and became banks. These are companies like General Electric, Ally Bank, American Express opened up an online bank, and so these are leading names in the financial services industry. Max works with your existing bank accounts. In fact, you retain direct access to each of these accounts, just like you normally would. What Max does is on a monthly basis, it analyzes the balances in your accounts and compares them to the prevailing interest rates. To the extent that your cash is not optimally allocated, Max simply tells your banks to send money between your own accounts so that it becomes reallocated and can earn more interest. All of the banks connected to Max are FDIC-insured. This means that the funds are insured by the federal government for up to $250,000 per depositor, per account type, per institution. That means that an individual using Max could avail themselves of up to $1.25 million of insured cash, and couples, through a combination of individual and joint accounts, could insure up to $5 million of cash. All of the cash that's linked to these online bank accounts is optimized by Max automatically every month. Max members can expect to earn more using Max than they would using their normal checking account or savings account or money market fund. There's no minimum amount of cash required to get started with Max, but the more cash you have, the more incremental interest you'll earn. In order to join Max, you have to have a U.S. taxpayer ID number. That's either a social security number or a separate tax ID number. You need a U.S. mailing address, and you need to be 18 years of age. That's it. Americans living abroad and expats can certainly join Max. All they need is a U.S. mailing address. The incremental return generated by Max really is free money. And so the question is, what can you do with it? For members with $50,000 in cash, that's an extra $400 per year. For our members with $1 million in cash, that generates an extra $8,000 per year. That makes for a nice charitable donation, maybe a week's vacation. For members with $10 million in cash, the after-tax incremental interest is enough to pay for tuition each and every year for one of their children. We all work hard for our money, and so we want our money to work as hard as possible for us. Max is a financial tool that helps make that easy.